Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Subculture Live. Uh, we don't have a guest tonight, right? We are going to kick the show off with Alan Kay and his segment. I think you guys are really going to want to stick around for this. He says it's a little bit more of a vulnerable segment, and I think that's how we connect, right? That's how we connect with people, by sharing those stories. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Alan Kay straight into his segment, and then at the end we're going to kind of reflect on it. I have a few things I'm going to add. We have some current events and some good things coming up here in our natural bodybuilding community that I want to share with you. So let me go ahead and bring in Alan. Here we go. Hold on here. Make sure I All right, here he is. Oh, see, look, hold on. And live TV guys. I'm just kidding. No, let me go ahead. Here we go.
What's going on, guys? And welcome to the Subculture Live's Shift of the Week. You can find my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram at alank.health. Now, today is February 22nd, and it just happens to be my birthday. Oh, I don't know what this video is.
Hold on. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. But for my birthday, I actually wanted to, instead of going over the normal, like kind of critiquing social media and programming, I wanted to at least go into my background of why all of these things mean so much to me, why I talk about mindset so much. And that really boils down to the beginning of my journey. Now, Sammy, can you post that picture that I sent you, please? Okay. So 2 years ago, that is me in the upper left-hand corner of that picture. I went from 170 plus pounds, what I would call a nice little dad bod. And then within about 8 months, I ran a marathon and then competed in my very first OCB competition, as you can see. Now, I know that when we talk about like transformations, when we talk about a lot of these things, it's really easy just to depict the physical transformation. But anybody that's ever gone through a very drastic transformation of that sort knows that it's more of the internal and the emotional, mental side that actually goes along with it. And if I were to be really honest and be clear about what it was like for the first 34 years of my life, there was a big whirlwind of internalizing a bunch of pain, deflecting a bunch of issues. And I spent a lot of my time defaulting to a bottle and trying to just mask all this pain. That first picture I told you of the dad bod is the first time that I finally decided to wake up, and I finally decided to start taking on my own problems. And although I was training for an OCB and a marathon, the amount of work I did on the internal side is what really gives way to where I'm at now. A lot of those things that I worked through were anything from being insecure, limiting beliefs that I had, and all the moments of feeling insignificant that really stemmed from a lot of the childhood traumas that I had to experience and then never worked through. That work is called inner child work. And if you guys are familiar with it, it is just that, is working on a lot of the adult behaviors and conditioning that you had that were seeded from the traumas that you experienced as a child. Some examples of this, but are not limited to, certain things like daddy issues, single parenting, abandonment. And for me, who was an Asian child adopted by a white family, it had its own array of identity issues, insecure issues, and you can imagine just the whole 9 yards. So for an entire year, 2021 to 2022, I worked on what this inner child work. Now, fast forward or reverse back to 2022, my birthday, February 22nd, 222 in the year 2022. Not only did it happen to fall on a Tuesday, but I decided to now go to Tulum, just to make as much synchronicity out of that as possible. But the synchronicity really doesn't stop there. When I got there, I decided to stay with one of my good friends whose aunt happened to just be in town. And after talking to her for a while, her name is Catherine Taylor, I found out that she had written a book back in 1991, and the book was called The Inner child workbook. The craziest thing in the world. I just gone through the biggest life-changing transformation, all of it stemming from inner child work. And then literally a year later on my birthday, in the most synchronous events, I met the woman who was a pioneer of the work that I had found that changed my entire life. We had amazing conversations about how everybody's on their journey, how everyone is going through something. And it's a lot easier if we're just a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more empathetic, and more giving, and giving more space to people that are going through their issues. And so why I'm saying all of this is this. A, everybody is going through their own thing. Give space, give whatever. Yes, I think certain people can always improve, but understand that everybody is right where they're supposed to be in their journey. And second, and the most important thing that I can ever emphasize, the best investment you can ever make is you. Keep on investing into yourself. If there are dreams that you want to go for, go after them. If there are a bunch of limiting beliefs, figure out what it is about it. Say, I can't do this because of that. And instead think about it. Well, if I could, what would it look at? And now that I am training for my third competition and have experienced quite possibly the most life-changing transformation in the last few years, I couldn't be more grateful for not only for bodybuilding competitions and inner child work, but to be honest, I couldn't be more grateful for me, for investing into me, working on the things. So I encourage all of you, if there are things that you are working through, work through it. There is absolutely nothing wrong. And don't forget, no matter what, the best investment you can ever make is you. So thank you very much. And Sammy, back to you.
That was very powerful, Alan. Thank you for sharing that. Um, you sounds like you've done a lot of healing over the last 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I would healing
I'm
I
gonna.
think healing is oh, are we bringing me
Yeah,
into the screen
I'm
here?
bringing you into the screen here. I my overlay was not cooperating with me here.
No, it's all
But
right.
yeah, so I and you just got back from New York as well. But yeah,
Correct.
so healing. You healed physically, emotionally, lots of healing.
Right. And if there's anything I've kind of noticed over the years and focusing on training, working out is a good catalyst for a lot of people to actually start getting into investing in themselves.
Yeah.
And I found that there's a lot of, I don't want to say internal issues, but there's definitely a lot of situations for which provoke people to work out. And what I love about working out as well is that you literally get out what you put in. You see that self investment for what it is. And I know that for me, working out has not only shown me that it's capable as long as I put in the work, but that aspect, that dynamic has definitely spread in other areas of my life. And now my relationships with like my parents, my kids are amazing. My relationships with my friends have been better. My entire life has changed and had everything to do with that one day, that picture that I sent where I just said, you know what? I'm tired of my own bullshit. I need to, I'm not where I want to be. And what do I need to do to get there? And mind you, it took a lot. It took 34 years of a lot of bullshitting, if I were to be really honest. But I couldn't be more grateful for it, because if it wasn't for those 34 years of pushing away everything, I wouldn't be grateful and appreciative of the things I have now. So, no.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's so it's incredible how everyone's story is so different. Like someone like myself who grew up around bodybuilding. That wasn't it was. But it was still it was still just as an important part of my life.
Mhm.
No matter where I was in my life, the gym was always there. If I was broke, if I was, in college, no matter where I was or what I was doing, that was just something I did every day to supplement my my lifestyle. But it became so much more than that. Like it is a mental outlet, is a uh, and you don't realize you're not. I wasn't always there just thinking about building like the perfect body. It was just something that I did, and then that was just kind of. I don't have the perfect body, but that was just the strength to building my body day in and day out. I didn't realize how much that was going to help me later in life. Everything from being a mom to giving birth to, I was ill a few years ago and I was able to recover from that so much better than people that don't live this lifestyle. So I'm so grateful for it as well. But,
Mm.
I was thinking about today, I'm 4 years removed from the stage, right? So I've been able to kind of settle back into kind of everyday lifestyle and
Mhm.
not so focused on competing and getting on stage. And I wanted to, in this episode, I wanted to be able to like step back and kind of give some insight of how that is and how that feels and what I didn't see or didn't realize when I was had my blinders on and I was prepping for shows, because I went pretty hard for about 4 years, and
Mhm.
and with only one goal in mind, which was just be number one, go to the top, go to the top. I was kind of all in. And when I say I was all in, there truly was no balance in my life.
Mm.
Like and I didn't really connect it until I was speaking with my son yesterday because he's wanting to get into shape and he wants abs for spring break, all that teenager stuff. And I said to him, I go, don't worry, we'll be able to make it all fit in. We'll be able to make it work. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, like you made it all fit in, Mom? He goes, I don't think so. He goes, for you to fit this in, you missed a lot of things, Mom, he said to me.
Mm.
And and he's referring to like maybe soccer tournaments, some of his games, his practices. There were some things that in his life that I missed. And
Mm.
you don't think about when you're so focused on your goal, you're not always thinking about how it's affecting everybody around you.
Mm.
And Dad was there. Does that count for something, right? In my
Right.
mind, it did. But to a young boy, like he's not hurt, but he still reminds me, no, no, Mom, you did miss things. You didn't have balance, and so I just want you as athletes to think about that when you are deep, deep into prep, especially at the pro level. The sacrifices, but in hindsight, the sacrifices that I did make, I would do it again because I think I taught my son a very valuable lesson that to be in that spot, because I told you before we went live, I had a meeting with his coach today, and his coach said, everybody's out here 3 days a week putting in practice, right? And my son's like,
Mhm.
yep. He goes, well, say everybody goes home, puts in another hour of practice. Everyone's doing it, right? He's like, yep. He's like, well, how are you going to be number one if everyone's doing it? And Zach's like, well, I'll do 2 hours of extra practice. And he goes, okay, everybody's doing that too. He goes, well, I'll do 5 hours of extra training. And the coach was trying to prove a point that sometimes it does take those extremes to rise to the top and to close those gaps. And it really just came full circle for me today, with having a young athlete in the house and him understanding how important sometimes we do have to sacrifice some of the things that we want to do, you know? Of course, I would want to be at his practices or I'd want to be at all of his games, but sometimes I had to sacrifice those things to reach my goals. And he got to see me do that. So, it's interesting when you're on the flip side and looking back in. Does that
Yeah,
make
but
sense?
yeah, I mean, there's no better way, in my opinion, to parent than to demonstrate the values that you're teaching. I mean, how can you ever tell your son, and how can I ever tell my daughters to be the best version of yourself if I'm not going to strive for that on my own?
Right.
And you're right, and yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, for me too, I'm deployments, the whole nine yards with the Navy. I definitely missed a lot of my children's upbringing, but considering where they're at now, they're well taken care of, and they have all the benefits in the world. And because of my service, they get free college now and the whole nine yards. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think as a parent, you do sacrifices and you make sacrifices knowing that your kids may not understand it until way later. There's a quote that I'm reminded of, which is, the older I get, the wiser my parents become. And the older I get with my own life and the way I parent, I see more and more the sacrifices that my parents made. And I could see where, hell, they may have made the wrong decision at the time, but they didn't know any better. And I think as is life, we take our lessons, we learn with it, we grow through it. And just sounds like what you just did. Like, that's where we learn how to appreciate all
Yeah.
those moments right there.
Yeah. And to see him make those connections, it was really cool. But getting back into like the natural bodybuilding world, I was looking at the schedules, and so we're getting ready, jumping into March, right? And there's a few shows, starts to brew. The season really kind of starts to, start in March. Then we jump into April, and I was looking at the natural schedules, and I think there's over 43 shows in April, and 12 different organizations. Just at a quick glance, that's in April, guys. So we are going to be
43.
over 43 shows.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh
So
my
we
God.
are going to be hitting the ground running. And just remember, this is a community. We all want to support you. We all want to be there to cheer for you. And you guys share your journeys, really. And if you want to tag Subculture in it, you guys see me sharing constantly the same people to my stories. Honestly, it's because they tag me. So if you guys have reels and fun stuff that you're doing, tag us. Let us share it. The more places we share it, the more eyes it gets in front of, and the more we can build our community. And that's really what Subculture is all about. Same with this platform. Like Alan Kay and I, we love coming on here. We do have some guests coming up that I have scheduled. But if you're interested, you have something that you want to share with the community, something that you offer the community, let me know and let's talk about it or be a guest on the show. And that's really what it's about, just keeping us all connected, because I know there's a lot of interesting people out there that do a lot of interesting things. And let's share it. You might inspire or have a service or a special talent that somebody else can benefit from in our community. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But man, am I excited for April. It is going to get hot.
Yeah, that is a lot of shows. 12 different organizations, though. Jeez.
I
Whew.
know.
Where do you find, out of curiosity, where do you find this at? Like, where's the
So,
events listed?
you can, I just go, I know a lot of the organizations just because I've been following it for a long time, but I'm trying to, so if you go to some of the natural organizations websites, they'll actually show you a good way to do it is they'll show you the organizations that they recognize. So you can start,
Mm.
that's how I originally started. And I was like, oh, and I'd be like, well, I didn't know about this organization or this organization. And that's how I kind of started, was saying, well, what do they mean they recognize this or they accept pro cards from this organization? And then I would jump over and start researching those organizations. So it became like a domino effect. And then I would go to that webpage and then I would see they don't all recognize the same. So I would pick up some new alphabet letters, right? And I would go to that website. And eventually, that's how I really became rehearsed in all the different organizations. And then now just being in it. But yeah, I could definitely send you over some of this alphabet soup so you can do your own. But I know you have a big OCB show coming up that you're prepping for. And that's going to be a journey you're going to share. So I'm going to make sure I keep putting that in the story so we can all follow along.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
working with a production company to get that competition journey out there. And it's, not only is it going to reflect like the diet, the working out,
Yeah.
I hate to say the same bland things, but it is going to highlight a lot of the things that I just kind of spoke about in the beginning of this episode and make it relatable. Because like I said, I found that through bodybuilding, a lot of people default to it when they are going through certain issues. And I like that as a default. I think it's a very healthy way to work through some of your issues because your body isn't just an objective piece of something to look at. There's a lot of chemicals. There's a lot of things that you do by putting it in motion. And some
Mm-hmm.
of our emotions are better exhausted out if we are in motion. So yes, I'm excited about that for sure.
Yeah. So I just had John pop in here. He lives up here, or should I say down here in Florida, around the Jacksonville area. And he reached out to me and asked if I knew any wellness posing coaches because he has an athlete also doing an OCB show in a few
Mhm.
months. And I drew a blank. I was like, like I said, I've been a little bit removed from it for a little bit. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
cannot think of any. So if you're out there and you're watching and you're a female wellness posing coach, because, that's new since I stepped off stage, the whole wellness thing, let me
Mm.
know and we will get you together so that we can get his girl ready for the stage. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of coaches. Like no shameless plug here, but like there's a lady on Instagram, mama_ida_posing, and then
Yes.
my coach, David Milligan, Nonstop Milligan. I would shameless, but no shameless plugs right there. They definitely have helped me get to where I'm at. So
That is good. No,
Definitely.
that's good information. That's what we're here for. So,
Absolutely.
some athletes can do the online posing,
Hmm.
and some coaches are very good at delivering that skill through like Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. Some
Hmm.
athletes need that one on one. So it just depends, right?
That is true. Yeah, that you know what? Yeah, I'll be honest. Like the first time I did it, I did posing was through online coaching, and then I'll be honest, the first two times I did my show, I didn't know what the heck I was doing posing. So there you go.
Yes, yes. It's definitely an art. Oh my gosh,
It
Alan.
is.
So thank you for sharing your story tonight. And this was just kind of a short episode. We just want to get everybody in the habit, Wednesday, 8:30. And we will have some special guests. I have some lined up. Anything you want to add?
No, no. Again, I love this show. I love it keeping going on a weekly basis, and thank you for everybody that tunes in. We definitely appreciate it. So,
So yeah, and I had told you like the other day, I was like, I'm having a creative block. Sometimes that happens to me, and I'm just like, hmm. And it happens to all creators, artists,
mhm.
everybody. And that kind of happened to me this week. I think I had too much fun on my birthday week last week. And yeah, my creative juices just were not flowing. So I apologize. But next week we'll definitely have an exciting guest on and just be sharing our natural bodybuilding community with everyone.
Absolutely,
And yes,
absolutely.
so I will make sure that John gets these recommendations, these coach recommendations, to see if his client is interested in maybe some online training. So, or
Yeah.
online posing, but also the posing clinics. You guys really need to hit those up. They're all over, and most of the time they're free. Sometimes there's a small charge, but I always encourage people to hit the posing clinics near you because you meet people, right? It's great for networking. You're going to learn, you're going to pick up something, a tip or two, and you might have something also to offer. Like I said, it's a great networking opportunity. And get out there, you guys. Take advantage of all these posing clinics that you see on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah, networking is so much fun in this community for sure. It's amazing people you definitely get to meet. And yeah, posing, gotta practice posing. I learned that the hard way. You gotta practice posing because it's not the same as flexing, that's for sure. Oh my God. Like I remember the first time I went into posing, I was like, oh, I flex all the time. I got this. Right. And then I went into my first show and I was like, I don't got this at all, as a matter of fact. And it's I look at some of those videos and I cringe. I'm like, oh my God, I really thought I was ready to get on stage during that time. But I mean, again, I think that's part of the process though. Sometimes you got to go through that and then, oh, hey, I really need to work on this. So definitely.
Exactly, exactly. I always laugh because my dad used to pose in the microwave. Like we had like a microwave oven, microwave, and the lighting in the kitchen was perfect. And he used to always be posing in this like one spot in the kitchen. So I, as a little girl, I grew up like always being around my dad
Mm.
posing. So of course, I'm very similar. I was always posing, and now I have my son doing the same thing, and I'm like, oh, we're
What-
damaged.
So is it like I know for me, right? And kind of we're talking about this. I do the same thing because I'll walk by a random reflection and I find myself like, what am I wait, hold up, man. I don't even notice I'm doing it. I'm just flexing naturally. For you when you're competing, was that something that you were doing too? Just secondhand nature?
I was always flexing, even like walking through reflection black cars and parking lots. I was always like, ooh, damn. Look at that bicep. Yeah, it's just we have to have fun with it, right? I mean,
Of
we're
course.
we have to entertain ourselves.
I think there's a healthy amount of narcissism that is okay. Like if you're not going to sit there and enjoy and appreciate your gains, why are you lifting, bro? Right? Like seriously, like you got to appreciate yourself and get it. I mean, I know social media is there to make you feel insecure and make you feel bad about being positive. But I mean, obviously, if you're at the point where you're competing and you're competing naturally, like you earned your right to sit there in front of a black car and pose in the reflection.
I earned
Eh,
it.
Yeah, you earned that car reflection pose. Damn it. You earned it.
Yes. And Yeah, you always mention social media, and I go back to what you were talking about last week, and it's so true. All those points that you made were so spot on. I had
Mm.
a girl reach out to me. She wants some advice, training advice. She's getting ready for a wedding, whatever. And I said, well, I go, this is my first piece of advice for you. I go, do not do or believe or follow anything you read on social media. And she was like,
Mm.
oh, she's like, you're right. She's like, I always feel so bad. And I go, you don't have to do 315-pound hip thrusts. You don't need to wear a wrap waist clencher thing. I go, just so whatever you see on social media, I go, just no, just don't, none of it. And she was like, oh, because I laugh every day when I scroll. And I'm just like, what is
Yeah.
this stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting too because I mean, if I were to be perfectly honest, if I didn't sign up for competitions or in this, competition community,
Yeah,
I would easily be programmed and provoked to do some of those things because I don't know any better. And it is a very interesting world that we're getting into that's being very impressed upon by social media. So you have to be weary of it because there's no regulation and there's no really stopping of what people post. And
I
I've
know.
seen crazy things where like I've seen people like running on treadmills while shoulder pressing an entire squat rack, and you're like, that's
Right.
not, what is this? And yeah, I can imagine if you're barely getting into it how intimidating it can be.
Yeah,
That's for
yeah.
sure.
So that was my first piece of advice. Like, just stay off it. Just don't do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I will be talking with her tomorrow, and we'll see what exactly she is doing. I'm sure I'm gonna get off that call just shaking my head and thanking social media for all its glorious fitness advice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wait,
And I thought the crazier thing too, by the way, was the fact that like 40% of all users use that as their means to get fitness and nutrition advice and everything. And then it's like then we wonder why like obesity is at a rise, why all this fast food propaganda is on a rise. And it's like, oh, hey, they're there to sell you something. They're not there to actually help you improve. And so
exactly.
that's why I gotta be weary.
Exactly. And the other faulty part of the fitness industry is it's very cyclical, right? They're always trying to get your money, and there's only so many things that you can like reinvent like or invent. So they are reinventing the same things over and over again and just giving them new names. And that always makes me laugh too because, I've been around long enough to see many things come around the wheel with just a different name over and over and over again, whether it's a training style, a diet, and everything has to have like a scientific word now,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
just kind of like, I just call that a supersat, or I just call it a this, but now there's like this, you know three scientific word. It's just like these big long names, and I'm like, what? No, like it doesn't need
Yeah.
to be that complicated, guys. And but it's, you gotta, somebody has to write a new book, and then they have to sell that program or whatever it is that they're, it's an industry. It's a money making industry. So you always have to keep that in mind too. You probably already know what you need to know, but you're getting duped into spending money or time relearning something that you kind of already know. It just has a new name. It's the same thing. Does that make sense? I know I'm
It
not being very
does. It
specific,
does.
but it can relate to the diets. It can relate to the training plans. It can relate to the splits, everything.
Right. Well, I mean, an example of what you're talking about is kind of like how, there's a big narrative about carbs. And if you're not in the work, if you're not in the fitness industry, you think carbs are just a terrible thing.
Right.
And I remember like during my last competition, I was eating all these carbs before, and all these people were like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like sitting there, single percent body fat, about to get on stage. I have this physique that they're trying to aim for, and they're telling me what I'm doing is wrong. And there's the thing about the bodybuilding community, like your results speak for themselves. And it's not like money where you don't know how much money someone has, or you don't know like certain experiences. Like your body, it is very evident if you have it or if you don't. And it's interesting what you're talking about, all these little nomenclatures that get sold. And I cannot tell you how many times I've gotten DM'd, you're wrong because of this, and this. And they'll tag me in an Instagram post or something. And you're like, just because that guy's got followers, just because that post has likes and it's got shares, it doesn't mean it's correct. And here's another thing that might work for them, but that's not what's worked for me. And therefore, it's like, yeah, it might be right for them, but it's not right for me. And but
100%.
you'll have those people. I ran into so many of those people that know all of the new nomenclatures, those new labels. And it's like, bro, if you would just put that same effort into your actual training, you would have these phenomenal results and you would never be impressed upon. So it's like the same effort you look into to try to sound smart about the industry, like just be that person instead and find out what those things are for you. And there's just so much more value to be had in that. But
Yes.
we definitely live in this society that just feels this need to I don't know, impress other people with our knowledge and yeah, do you know about this gluten-free keto 5,000 diet? Yeah, you just like you smell meats and then you do that and then you just get ripped. I'm like,
Right.
what?
Now, on
Why?
the flip side, I will say there are some positive advancements and knowledge that has come out from, studying the science side of things. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I'm not into like the whole bro science. Like, I do believe that there's been some really great things that have come to light or that, we're learning. But for the basic stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
The just kind of comes around and goes around and people buy into it every single time, but it is what it is. I love the industry in and out. I just see it a little differently than the younger generation. Like my son came home from school and he goes, yeah, mom, he's like, so and so asked me if I was in a bulk or a cut. I'm like, what? You're 13. I was like, that's adorable.
Like you're in a puberty. That's what you're in. Like you know.
Yeah, yeah, you play soccer 5 days a week. You can eat whatever you want. And yeah. And,
No,
and so it's just funny. I love the industry, and I love that we're able to touch people with it and teach people about it and pass it along our enthusiasm for it. So yeah,
definitely, definitely.
cool.
So
All right, Alan. Well, I am glad you're back in California. Yeah,
I
looks like you're in
am.
your
I am.
studio.
I will. This is actually the last day I'm going to be in this studio. I'm in the middle of a move.
That's
So
right.
yeah. So next week, I probably won't have the studio set up next week, but it will be in a different location. It's going to be a new everything,
Is
but
that
I'm
is that
excited.
is that jersey signed in the back?
No, it's not.
Uh,
Like, but it was funny. So, all right. So I got this jersey when I was in the fifth grade. I was a big Michael Jordan fan. And I remember I asked for this jersey, and my parents somehow interpreted that as we're going to get it for him and frame it.
oh,
And I wanted, but
I
I
wanted
didn't
to
have
wear it.
I wanted to wear it. And I've never worn it. It's been framed since the fifth grade. And it's such a beautiful frame. I didn't want to take it out and then I but yeah, it's not autographed, unfortunately.
Okay,
Unfortunately.
that's okay because I
Yeah,
just assumed it was.
there we go. It you know what? It identifies as autographed.
There
Okay.
you go. It's there you go. No,
Oh
that's
man.
cool. That's cool because my son's into. My son's just a cool kid. He's way cooler than I am, but he's into collecting now. I know. I could talk.
He's-
He's way cooler than I am. He does much. He's more interesting. Let me put it that way. But he collects now, so I was thinking if I was going to ask him what a signed jersey would be, and he probably would know the answer to that.
oh yeah, yeah. No, that's yeah. I used to collect a whole bunch of Michael Jordan stuff. I even at one point had a graded Michael Jordan rookie card. And yeah,
Tell me.
but long story short, I was going through a divorce, going through some financial things, and I sold it. And now it's worth over 55K. And needless to say, I didn't sell it for that.
Oh, Alan.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
bought I bought it to hold. I bought it too because I know it's gonna worth something, and then life
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was
yeah,
worth something to you when you needed it. So
now it's worth a headache. That's what it is.
the regret.
The regret, regrets, not even a letter. It's all regrets. Oh
Oh my
God.
gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
But
I
we
could
live
talk
and
to
we
you.
learn.
Yeah, I could talk to you all night, but I'm going to let you go and we will meet again Wednesday unless I hear otherwise from you. And I will be much more prepared and we'll have a fun guest.
Absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
guys. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys. Have a great night. And good night, Alan K.
Deuce.
Here it comes.